Ed Paget here, and if you regularly watch my channel, you'll know I use a whole body approach to help people with scoliosis. That means I get a ton of questions about the exercises here on my channel. And one of the main questions I get is people asking me about what type of curve they have because they're afraid to hurt themselves or make their curves worse by doing the wrong exercises. Now, are you confused about what type of curve you have? Because if you are, you should watch this video before you try any of the exercises on this channel. Because in this video, I'm going to explain to you what your doctor should have done the moment you were told you have scoliosis. So let's sort this out together. I divide scoliosis management into three broad areas. Firstly, we need to understand our curves, and that is where knowing your curve type comes in. Secondly, you need to know specific scoliosis exercises to do for your curve. And lastly, you need to look at your lifestyle and see if there's anything you can do or anything you can change that will slow down, stop, or even reverse the progression of your curve. Now, I go into more depth on each of these areas in my free Facebook group. And in there, I have this resource that you can download, and it's called The 7 Secrets of Scoliosis. If you'd like that, just join the group and download it. The link for that is in the description below. The first thing you need to know is that there are 4 main types of curves, and these can be all called idiopathic scoliosis. This fancy word simply means no known cause, and it's mostly diagnosed in teenagers. But some curves can also happen in adults as they get older and will be referred to as a degenerative scoliosis. There are other types of curves like congenital scoliosis or neurogenic scoliosis, but I'm not going to be discussing those in depth in this video. All right, so let's get back to those 4 main shapes. I'm going to talk to you about finding out what type of curve you have from your x-ray. You can also watch this if you've just had an x-ray report, as I will help you understand what the report is telling you. These 4 main shapes of curves are the 2 types of C curve and 2 types of S curve. The most common curve is a reverse S curve. This will account for about 80% of the idiopathic scoliosis out there. Now, some people might look like they have an idiopathic scoliosis, but this isn't always the case. This is why getting an x-ray is the gold standard, because sometimes scoliosis can actually be caused by something congenital, like a hemivertebra or failure of segmentation, which simply means one vertebra didn't form properly when you were growing. And we can only tell this on an x-ray, and it looks like this. So if you think you have a scoliosis, the best way to confirm that diagnosis is with an x-ray, as it will confirm your curve type and highlight the obvious cause. This will help you make a plan for decreasing the curve with exercise or stopping it from getting it worse. Now, managing your expectations is key. Things like a CT scan or MRI are okay, but not as good as seeing the overall bone formation, and plus, they're a lot more expensive. So, what type of x-ray should you get? Now, I'd like you to ask your doctor for a standing x-ray from the front to back, or back to front. Doesn't matter on x-rays, they're the same thing. I also would like you to get one from the side. It's called a lateral projection. If you wear a brace, don't wear it. Get it without a brace. Make sure you include both your hip joints, your whole pelvis if possible, your whole spine, and the lower half of your skull and your shoulder girdle. This will allow us to look for anything else that could be causing your scoliosis that isn't directly on your spine. Now, when you get your x-ray, you should be proactive with your doctor, even more if you're paying out of pocket. This means ask them to measure the angle of your curves and at least get a photo of the x-rays along with the written report. And many of my clients only have the report. So if you get an opportunity to see your x-ray in the doctor's office, make sure you whip out your phone and take a photo of it. Don't ask permission to do it, just do it, because I've heard of some hospitals not letting people take pictures of their own x-rays. Now, I have no idea why they do this, but it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask permission. Also, if they try and give you a CD, think about what you're going to do with it. Do you have a way of viewing it? Most people don't. So ask them to print out the pictures that are on the CD for you and send them to you as PDFs or JPEGs. Now, they'll probably say that email isn't secure and it's a security risk, but tell them that it's an image of your spine and that you are okay for them to use email. I mean, who still has a CD-ROM reader? I don't even remember the last time I had one. Okay, now let's have a closer look at each curve, and I'm going to explain the language most commonly used on x-ray reports. So this curve will be called a dextroscoliosis. Dextro means right, as the curve is referred to by the side of the convexity, which is also known as the long side or the apex. When we look at the spine, we can divide it into two areas, the thoracic and the lumbar. The thoracic consists of 12 bones or vertebrae, and the lumbar consists of 5, and it's at the bottom. As this curve is in the thoracic area, we can call this a thoracic C-shaped curve. Or to be more accurate, we're looking at it from behind, we can call it a thoracic reverse C-shaped curve, because it makes the shape of a C that has been reversed or flipped. Now, you can see that there is one major curve here, so we call that the primary curve. The smaller ones below or above will be called secondary curves. Andrea has this type of curve and managed to change her posture significantly in just 1 month by applying the correct exercises. This will make it easier to understand your curve when you're doing exercises. So usually somewhere on the x-ray there's going to be a little L or a little R for right, so L for left and R for right. This can help orientate you. Also, the heart can give you a clue. Make sure you put the heart on the left, and then you'll know you'll be looking at your x-ray from behind. Now this curve is called a lavoscoliosis, or as I like to call it, a regular C-shaped curve when viewed from behind. You can see that the curve starts at the top of the lumbar vertebra, where the green line is, and then extends up into the thoracic vertebra. So this will be called a thoracolumbar curve. Now this spine actually has two curves, a dextrothoracic and a lavolumbar. But most commonly, this type of scoliosis is called a reverse S-shape, because when you look at it from behind, it makes a reverse S-shape. This is the most common type of curve and the one I spend most of my time working with. And once you know your curve type, you can start with some exercises. For example, Rohia has this type of reverse S-shaped curve, and once she learned specific exercises, she managed to reduce the lower curve by 9 degrees. There is one last curve shape, and that is called a regular S-shaped curve. This one has two curves when looked at from behind and makes a regular S-shape. On a report, it will be called a lavothoracic or dextrolumbar. It's important to remember that x-rays show us how the spine changes in just one direction. So they're going to show us whether it goes to the left or to the right. But in reality, the spine doesn't change just like that. It also rotates left and right and either straightens up or bends forward. Now you can see this rotation as a rib hump in people who have a scoliosis. And this will be on the same side as the apex of the curve. So for example, if you have a reverse S-shaped curve, your right shoulder blade will generally stick out a little bit more, and if you bend forward, there will be a hump on your right upper back. Knowing what type of curve you have can really help you when doing scoliosis-specific exercises. I always advise my clients to print off a picture of their x-ray, orientate it so that they're looking at it from behind, and put it on the wall when they exercise. I've found that it really helps people remember which part of the spine is moving with each exercise. So what do you think? Did I explain your scoliosis better than your doctor did? Or are you still confused? Now, if you are, go to the link in the description below or in that first pinned comment and book a free scoliosis assessment where I can check your x-rays and guide you to the right exercises to correct your scoliosis.